Afghanistan and the people of Afghanistan, and will continue to support their efforts to achieve peace and security in their country.
Peace and security. For 17 years now, the American people and the people of the world have listened to the U.S. State Department tell us how the American military is working to bring peace and security to Afghanistan. But this lie is self-refuting. At 17 years, the Afghan war is now the longest war in American history, and despite recent reports about negotiations between the U.S. and the Taliban, the deployment of troops in the country has actually increased in the Trump era.
Breaking news on the nation's long war in Afghanistan. President Trump in a primetime address declaring the U.S. must continue the fight.
We've had an increase on attacks against free speech, hate speech crimes, under the guise of mass shootings, killings, and perhaps speech on social media, different platforms, helping to cause this. President Trump himself also has been talking about fake news and tying in with the danger of that. And when you stop and think that we've been lied to about World War II as far as Pearl Harbor being a false flag, all the false flags of all the wars from World War II, Vietnam, the Gulf of Tonkin incident as a false flag, Fort Sumter in the Civil War, Korea, the first Gulf War, and then after 9/11, the ongoing war on terror that has not ended, and then at home in America, the known false flags and the very sketchy different events that have happened, Ferguson, burn it down, Sandy Hook, on and on. History shows that there are people in power that foment wars for gain, for profit. It's no big surprise, and it's happened at least since World War I and the Civil War. So all these events that are highly covered in mainstream media and look like there's a lot of unanswered questions, where there's drills, all of that. It's something to keep mindful of with this recent synagogue shooting. It reminded me, well, first off, last month in September, our Congress passed H.R. 1911, anti-Semitism law, and it has to do with not boycotting Israel, as far as there's a lot of people who are against what is happening, the genocide of Palestinians, the ongoing fight. We know there's, on both sides, the Palestinians are being given, they're what is the word? They're just used as props to keep the fighting going on. And it's just, there's just so much. We have the Propaganda Ban Act that was changed as of, now I can't even remember, where it's okay for our own government to legally, and lawfully and legally are not the same, but to propagandize against the American people. And that would include emergency broadcast. That would include commercials, movies, video games, presidential press releases. It's, in other words, they just basically have openly, in our face, told us that they can lie to us whatever way they want using media. And since at least cable TV came out, people are less aware of what's really going on and more in tune with what's being broadcast to us. And this here is crisiscast.com. This was attached to somebody's Sandy Hook video. There's that saying that to know who your enemy is, know who you're not allowed to criticize. World War II and the Holocaust, when you look into it, my daughter did a report in high school, and it dawned on me, that is one thing we were being taught in school in a very narrow narrative of what happened and what matters and what's the take on the whole World War II involving Poland, Germany, Russia. So today there are people in jail, in prison, for questioning historical facts on what all happened. Many people died in World War II. And turns out, you start looking into things, Preston Bush was charged with trading with the enemy. We have Henry Ford, IBM, ITT, over there is in Poland, helping to decide who goes into what camp, who gets killed. American corporations profiting off this war. Zionists like Soros deciding who gets killed. And many Jews were killed, many Christians, many Poles, many Catholics. And it looks like it was the Zionist, Jewish and non-Jewish, who decided who gets killed. And faithful Jews and Christians were a big part of that, of who gets killed. So now we have this shooting where there was a drill in January 2017 or 2018 at that same synagogue. We have Sandy Hook and the Boston Marathon bombing. And just, if nothing else, there's a lot of questions. But here is crisiscast.com. Solutions. Our role-play actors are psychologically trained in criminal and victim behavior. They bring intense realism to simulated mass casualty incidences on the battlefield, during kidnap and ransom and emergency evacuation situations, and in hostile threats in urban and public places. We have every school, every grammar school, every high school in America has gone through in the last few years drills of one type or another, whether it's active shooting. And now, the minute anything happens, if there's a robbery at a local store, the nearest school gets locked down and goes through this drill. Okay, in doing so, Crisis Cast provides learners with irrevocable first encounter with the emotional challenges of any hostile incident. Results. Nothing works as effectively in dealing with real-world disasters as rehearsal. We bring all our experience creating highly credible dramatic scenarios to bear, preparing to bear preparing your people for the worst and equipping them with the psychological and practical tools that will help them save lives and survive disaster. So under the guise of these drills being like a CPR class where you practice and you know, because yes, in an emergency and like stop, drop, roll that we learn as children, all that, in emergencies, you panic. It's easy not to know what to do. Certain things do need to be practiced, rehearsed over and over. Life-saving events, the Heimlich maneuver, CPR, what to do in a fire. And we practice those. We have drills for those. But this here is a whole different ball game. This is the world stage. Cast. Our crisis management actors rehearse and deliver in teams of 2. We find that saves fees. So everywhere in America where we have drills, they need local extra players and they advertise. Prosthetics, makeup, wounds, and blood are created by professional makeup artists. It's all Hollywood. But used and can be used, not that it always is used just for that purpose, but to deceive us, to get us to give up our guns, to give up our free speech, to lay down and acquiesce to our rights being squashed. If we've been lied to about the Civil War and all the wars of the last 100 years, and there's been false flags, everything I think about Korea that I found, that there wasn't a particular false flag event, because Americans used to be not for war unless their own nation was in danger. If everything has been a lie and has been fomented and big people have profited, mostly bankers, there are accusations that if you say anything about Israel as a state, as a nation, the politics of it, then you're being anti-Semitic, just like the race card. Oh, you're a racist if you don't want to vote for Barack Obama. Why is most of our Congress, or at least half of it, dual citizenship with Israel? And why is that allowed? Why, during Hurricane Harvey, did people who were victims of Hurricane Harvey with no homes have to sign a form that they would not boycott Israel in order to get FEMA help? It does not make sense. And Zionists are not, well, true Zionists are God-fearing people. But Zionists as we know them, like Soros, and they don't have to be Jewish, they're globalists, satanic elite, who think nothing of genocide and killing, like Henry Kissinger, saying that soldiers are nothing but cannon fodder. Look at 1973, 9/11, 1973 in Chile. They had their 9/11. They picked, these Satanists love dates and numbers and certain days to do things. They picked September 11th, 1973 to do a coup in Chile, and women were raped and tortured and killed, people, children, by the thousands. Why? To do a coup? There was no reason. It's bad enough to do a coup against a nation. But why all that bloodshed that goes with it? These people are sick. Democrats used to be a whole different party than it is today. And as someone has said, and it's so true, the main platform Democrats run on is the right to kill the baby. That is their top prized right that they fight for. and guns. They're in glee. We got Claire McCaskill training her people to hide the fact that she's pro-gun ban and pro-abortion so she can get elected. That's all just a drop. The thing is, when I look with this recent shooting and this push now against our free speech, if we cannot speak about certain things, we're not free. It doesn't matter. And Sandy Hook, they did a press conference with that one state trooper, chief, I'm not sure his title, saying that nobody better, and he was addressing the general audience, say anything wrong about Sandy Hook, or there'll be prosecutions, or something to that effect. But basically threatening people, don't go out there and look into this and say that, oh, gee, there's something funny that the FBI has no deaths for Newtown, Connecticut for that year, right before the Smith-Mundt Propaganda Ban Act was changed, 2013, in the NDAA. They never stop and they never will. And while we've had enough damage in the last 10 years that can take us 30 years to even try to recoup from, but this free speech, that's what'll stop our communications, our ability to share information. Rhode Island, there's a bill that was passed, H.R. 6001 or 6011, 2017, by a Justin Price, passed a geoengineering bill that in Rhode Island, with fines that include like $500,000 a day, giving the breakdown of some of the basics of the spraying and the geoengineering that's done on us. Cloud seeding alone causes death, flooding, drought, harm to farmers, animals, plants, people, water. We are at a precipice with this freedom of speech. We need to be able to just stop and look from Oklahoma. Not only all the wars, false flags. The false flag alone shows that it's a crime. It's fomented. That's the way to get the masses to go along with. So the false flags alone in the wars, but let alone all the different corporations and people that have profited. I mean, most of us know who's mainly at the top of this global power structure in our world. And it's Vatican, Jesuits, Zionists, and our media is helping with this. And almost everybody. We know that for quite a while now, Hoover started the head of FBI, get compromising information on everybody, so we have our thumb over them. We got lobbyists. We got Saudi Arabia is a big lobbyist in our country. Cheryl Atkinson just did a video on that. Every which way, the thing is, we're so lied to about everything. And what we see on the news, it's this. On mainstream media. As though, to them, our world is a stage. So, but to have one thing criminalized, like you cannot deny the Holocaust. Well, that's sort of a broad brush, but that means historians and people wanting to look into facts about what happened. If all the other wars have been false flags and narratives, what about World War II and the narrative we've been given? To have people in prison for speaking or writing on it. Or like with Sandy Hook or George Bush saying, let us not tolerate conspiracy theories on 9/11. At the UN, he said that. So, I just see, you can see with this synagogue shooting, they're gonna, as Eric Holder said, never let a, was it him? No, it's a Chicago mayor. Can't think of his name now. They're brothers. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And Eric Holder pounding every child in every school, every day or every week needs to have, guns are bad in their face, one way or another. Because that's what they fear the most. They need to disarm America to feel safe themselves. And that's what it's all about, COG. We need to really, it's bad enough what Alex Jones, it doesn't matter if he's good, bad, tall, short, black, white, there was no reason for him to be banned. You can't ban people. You can't ban ideas. And somebody was arguing with me yesterday that Facebook has a right to ban people if they want. It's a private company. I'm not sure about the whole thing. The internet should not belong to any group. That seems to me like the airwaves. So we're in trouble if we keep forgetting, letting our guard down, and forgetting that we're being lied to about just about everything on mainstream media. So God help us to figure out how to navigate in all this baloney.